What's going on, guys? This is Caucasian Mark, the whitest dude on the internet. Today we're going to be talking about something very near and dear to my heart and everybody else's in the entire world. And this is for loops and for each loops. These things are pretty sweet. They're pretty powerful. They do a lot of fun and cool stuff. So let's get going on them. We're going to type out the word as for, because obviously that's what they're called. And let's do a system printout here. So we see this right here, and we see that we have the system printout. We're going to type in I here. Now, we don't know what that really means for now, but let's go back up to our for loop here. So let me go ahead and just set this all up. Alright, cool stuff. So what does this do? Well, let's run it, and then we're going to see what it does afterward. So we can see here it starts at 0, starts counting at 0, and down here moves all the way up to 99. Cool stuff, but how does it do it? How does it do it? I'm giving grammar lessons. Alright, so what we want right here, and this is the first part of the for loop. It says for the int value, which is I, and I right here is 0, so it's starting at 0. So you can think of what comes between or before the first semicolon here is the starting value. Where do you want to start? We can have 0 right here. The next part the compiler looks at is the value of the integer, in this case I. I is a very common one. You're most likely going to use I every single time unless you have a nested for loop, which is one inside of another. Then you're going to change the value from I to J. Just common practice from what I've seen. So you have I right here, starting at 0, and then the compiler is going to check, is I less than 100 or whatever value you have over here. It depends on your operator over here. And then what it does, it comes down here, prints it out, and it's, in this case, printing out the value of I, which is whatever it may be in its iteration. Then, what's cool is it comes right back up here, and it increments the value. So next time it starts at 1. So then it checks, is 1 less than 100? Yeah, obviously. No duh there. And then it comes down here and prints out the next value, which you can see would be 1 right down here corresponding. Then comes up and adds and repeats the process until it's done. Now if we did less than or equal to when we ran it again, we would see it would go up to 100. Because before, when the value went up to 100, it would come back here and say, okay, so this is equal to 100 now, awesome stuff. And then it says, oh wait, this is 100, so it's not less than 100. This is saying this is less than or equal to 100, so it tacks it on at the end, where previously we did not have that. Cool stuff. So this is a for loop. Pretty basic generic stuff there. So let's put another for loop inside of here. And let's do something like this. What we're doing right here is writing a string in here, says I, the colon, and that's going to be kind of our equals or what it is at that state. So we have the plus there and then the I, which is to include the I. If we took that out, we would have an error. So the plus is denoting to the compiler, hey, this thing right here, this I value, just slap it right in the statement, right where it would come next. And then we can see that 0, I, at this point is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all that other good stuff, right? But if we wanted to write another for loop in here, let's do one for J. Int J equals, let's say, start off at 100. And we're going to do something kind of interesting here. Let's just do, so if j started off at 100, we want to count down. So let's do less than or equal to 0. And we're going to do j minus minus. We're going to do a system out print line. And we're going to do j plus j to incorporate that variable we have right there, and let's run it and see what happens. Oh, I can see why here. I changed that. Awesome stuff. Sorry about that. So what this says, as long as I out here is less than or equal to 100, keep doing this. And this says as long as j is greater than or equal to 0, because we're counting down, we're decrementing here, we're going to system out, and then we're going to print the value of j at that point. So if we're looking down here, we see that j seems to be, repeating itself over and over and over and over and over again. Now, why is that? Well, if we scroll on up here, we're going to see I is at 0. We're going to see I is at 1. We're going to see I is at 2. So what happens here is this: if you have a nested for loop, this may be a bit of an exaggerated example. So let's drop this from 100 and let's go to, say, 10 here. We'll run it again. It's a bit easier to see here and less to go through. So 0, then we have 1. So this will start at 0, do all the checks as we did before. It'll print this off. But then what it will do is it will go down into here and execute this for loop. And this for loop will run until it is done, decrementing all the way down to 0. Then this will come up, it'll add on to the initial value of I. So this will be 1 now. It'll print off this as 1, execute this 10 more times, increment it, and then so forth and so on. So you can see 0 eventually does go all the way up to 100. Right here, it just has to run this 10 times every time this increments once. That gets a little confusing. I realize when you have the nested stuff inside of nested stuff, but it is common. People do use it a lot. So that is one way of looking at the for loop and a nested for loop in and of itself there. So what about this next great thing? It's called an advanced for loop, or a for each. It's pretty cool. So up here we have an array, and I put the values 108, 545, 433, such and such in there. Now say we don't want to, all we want to do is just read from one point to another point in there. Let's say we want to start at the beginning and see what's all in there, and we don't want to write all of this other crap out in here. So what we're going to do is for, say, int I, and then we're going to have system out print line. We're going to do I. Let's just come up here and comment out, because we don't want all that stuff running again. And what this does, it says for an integer I, we're going to go through our first array, and we can see that we have 108, and it does it all in order that we stored it in here. So this says for an integer, and we could call this, let's name hot babes. We could run it again, and the same thing still happens. So this is just a generic name you give it. So for this value, the semicolon is like saying in, and then this array, and then we could print out all the values inside of that array, which is pretty sweet, because we don't have to go up here, we don't have to do this starting at 0, we don't have to say until we hit this certain point, then we can't do it anymore, now increment it. If we're just looking for a very, very quick way to iterate through all the values in an array, that is a very, very, very good method for it. I highly recommend it. It's faster. And that is all for now. This has been 4 and 4 each loops. They're pretty cool stuff. Like, share, subscribe, contribute, leave comments, all that other good stuff, and have a rockin' day.